We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Let's stand for the pledge. Keith, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Here.
Joe Crowell,
Here.
Jerry Sartain,
Here.
Joe Machoto,
Here.
Michael Rather,
Here.
Jared Barrett, Zane Cantrell.
Present.
All voting members are present. We do have a quorum, sir.
Okay, thank you. You have the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
I have a motion that be approved. Do we have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Minutes are approved. Do we have any old business that needs to come up or any announcements? No, okay. The first item we have before us is a request by Mitchell Bowman, who is requesting a burrow pit and relief from setback requirements. And what do you have on that?
Thank you, Chairman Cantrell. Application 2013-50, filed by Mitchell Bowman, is a request for temporary special exception approval for a burrow pit and relief from the area requirements and setback requirements for burrow pits in the RL low-density residential zone. The site is located off of Rhodes Lane. It is a vacant 5.37-acre site. The site's located in Commissioner Jack Black's district. And the applicant was notified by code enforcement as we had received complaints regarding the materials of dirt being removed from the site without having the appropriate permits. To correct the zoning violation, Mr. Bowman submitted his application for special exception approval. You see in the staff report, as well as the survey that was supplied by the applicant, the site is only a 5-acre site. And our burrow pit regulations limit burrow pits to 25% of the site for those properties that are less than 10 acres. This pond will measure 29% of the 5.3-acre site, so he is seeking relief from that standard, as well as the setback standard where burrow pits are required to be a minimum of 50 feet from all property lines and 150 feet from any residential property line. The proposed pond is located approximately 10 feet from the rear property line. We have received multiple phone calls in opposition of the proposed request. I passed out letters from Mr. Likens as well as a D. Carletto, so you could see their reasonings for opposition, and we have some photos from one of the residents. They will go over and describe those photos with you in a minute. We posted a sign on the property. We find that the application, with the exception of the two standards for which he is seeking relief, meets the criteria, and he will be required to demonstrate meeting all of the other criteria that can only be demonstrated upon approval and submittal of engineering plans to the engineering department. Okay, this is the surrounding area. These are large acreage tracts with single-family homes and farms established upon them. And this is a photo that was supplied by Mr. Likens. This is the excavation activities that have already taken place upon the site. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, we'll ask those who are requesting this to come forward this time to the podium and give us any other information you'd like to on this. Then we'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on it. Yeah.
Members of BZA and Zane, I appreciate you hearing my request. After
State your name for the record, please.
Pardon me?
State your name for the record.
My name is Mitchell Bowman. I appreciate you hearing this, but after the request was set out, naturally I did hear a lot of opposition about it. So I've been talking to Joe Russell and Nicole about it, and I've changed my mind on the plan that we had was to dig the pond on the property. So what I want to do now in the request is to fill in the pond. About 50 feet before you get where you saw the picture, I have to fill that in. So there's a big knoll there before that. I want to cut that knoll down and fill that in right there. And there probably will be 30, 40 loads of dirt left over, but I'd like to request to haul that off the property, if I may.
The 30 or 40 loads, where would you haul that to? Is it sold?
Well, I didn't sell it. Naturally, I build homes and Michael's homes, so we would use that, on the north side of Murfreesboro is what we would use it. I've talked with Joe also to maintain the road, and, I understand the silt fence issue, the environmental, and tracking up the road, so I would be very cautious to that, too.
But your plan for that additional soil would be to sell it, is that correct?
Put it on my houses, yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions, please?
I have a question.
Joe, go ahead.
So my understanding is what you just said is you're going to fill in what you've already dug out with what's on a berm or something, and you've got enough there to fill that in, plus you're going to haul off some.
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Well, let me ask you a question. You've already started digging. Why would you start digging without getting a permit?
Well, it was, I should have not done that naturally, but I was digging that pond to make it appealing to customers to, sell a house with a pond on it because naturally somebody's going to want a horse or something like that. So it was kind of a good area for both, but, I realize now that it amounts to talking to the neighbors and getting that permit prior to. So we just, it was an oversight on my behalf of being busy.
Okay.
Joe? Okay.
I've just got a few questions. So now, since all this is taking place, you've spoken with all the residents out there that this affects, and with what you have proposed now, you think they're going to be?
We'll let Joe talk, but, after it went from a pond to a borrow pit, then that's when everything started, everybody started sending letters and everything, too. So I've talked to him, and he understands what we're going to do, and I think he's talked to most of the other people, or some of them.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If this was approved the way you're talking about, you say about 30 or 40 loads of dirt would be there that you would be taken off this property.
If it's available.
Sir?
If it's available after I fill that hole
Okay. Well, whatever's available, what kind of time period do you project to get this off? I mean, it's going to last a few months to get it off, or
Less than 3 months.
Less than 3 months.
Yes,
Okay. So in other words, the dirt hauling, the folks would only be subject to that for about a period of 3 months.
Right.
Okay. With trucks coming up and down the road. If that's the case too, how many trucks a day do you plan on hauling this thing off there?
Usually we just have one truck hauling for us at a time. He loads himself, so I'd say it'd be 8 loads a day or something
Okay.
like that.
Let's see. I can probably ask our staff this. If this was approved, as far as from a road perspective, that's where I'm from the road perspective, would the county engineering, would they require him to post a road bond till that was?
The same conditions would still apply. He would also have to submit a revised plan, which we were not privy to before tonight's meeting. But he would have to submit revised plans and coordinate this with the engineer, and they would look at what kind of bond was required because roads is a county road.
Thank you.
That would, Danielle, that would still include the silt fence and everything. It doesn't matter whether it's 4 loads
Yes.
or 50. It's
Right.
the same requirement.
Right.
Around the low end of the excavating is where they require it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Bowman. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around to the podium, give us your name and any information you'd like to share.
My name's Joe Russell. I've got the property that is to the rear or beyond the 5 acres that Mr. Bowman owns. And after speaking with him at great length, we have arranged or agreed that I think the way he's going to fill that pond in and with any remaining soil he'll be able to haul off, I'm okay with that. I basically did not want to have an open pit left over. I've had to live in one of those subdivision before, and you know, you got to haul in a lot of clay, and then eventually the clay cracks, and then it doesn't hold water anymore, and you got a mosquito problem later on. So that's all I think all the surrounding neighbors were concerned about. And I think we addressed that issue by filling the hole back in. I don't mind him, you know, having the dirt to haul wherever he needs to haul for his other properties, but just as long as I don't have a big open pit sitting out there, that's about all I'm worried about. So I think we can work together and make sure that everything's done accurately.
Are you speaking for the Glowers and the DiCarlettos as well, who have written letters?
I hate to speak for anybody else. I would say no. But basically, I have talked to Jared Ward, who is partner with DiCarletto, and I think they've been informed of the issue. Because I think they own the property that's the 35 acres that's down beyond that, even further beyond my piece of property. But I think we can get things worked out. So.
Any other questions, Keith?
So, Mr. Russell, in other words, the question I asked him, what he's proposed to change to the revised plan, what he wants to do, you're okay with that?
Yeah, I am okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, because when he first started, that was kind of where all this came from. I had a lot of damage to the road. He's going to fix that, and you know, I could not enjoy my property in the back, and that was what that ingress road was for. And so once he gets that fixed, I'll be able to go, and I would have to drive right by that every day where that open pit would be to go to where my property is, and eventually I'm going to build a house out there, and I didn't want that to have to go by that every day. So once he fixes that, I'm good to go.
Thank you.
Sir, you're saying you would like to see this pit completely filled in before any dirt's removed from the property? No dirt to be removed until the pit's completely filled in. Is that what you want?
Yeah, I mean, it'll have to. I mean, all the soil that's there on the site will have to come from somewhere.
Sir?
All the soil that's on the site will have to fill that pit, and then have any remaining dirt left over to haul out anywhere else.
But he
will
needs
have
to
come
he
from
needs to
somewhere.
fill the pit before he moves any off site.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. Anyone else, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Martin Likens. I'm actually the neighbor to this amount of property. I live at 8976 Rhodes Lane there in Las Casas. And I apologize, I was not prepared for the new, things that have been, brought up today. My comments are all regarding the borrow pit. As you can see from my email, I'm not going to read it. There are some photos in there. I've spoken with Mitchell Bowman previously. He's a very nice man. I have nothing against him. My concern is with the borrow pit. I've lived there for almost a year now. I have a family, I have a small daughter, I have animals. As you can tell by that property, there's an easement that goes up the north side, and as Mr. Russell had said, there potentially will be 3 homes back there one day in the very near future. With that whole borrow pit, pond, whatever we would like to call it at this point in time, that as you could tell by the photo, that looks to be a very dangerous hole. The sides are very steep. If you had, I believe there's an electric easement going through there. If you had a man in a truck driving through there, it's very clear that could pose a problem. My issue with borrow pits are they're obviously not very attractive. You can tell by the photos there in the south side, that's a neighborhood. That piece of property is fairly close to that neighborhood. You don't necessarily purchase a home around there to have something like that beside your property. So those are my issues with the borrow pit. Now, in regards to the moving of dirt, at this point in time, I feel like there are too many questions. I really don't know as to comment on that. But filling in the hole, I would be very much for that.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Are you saying that if you want him to completely fill his hole in before any dirt removes the property?
Yes, sir. And that would be in regards to what I'm prepared.
In other words, if he completely fills a hole in, then you don't mind him removing the remainder part of the...
I would not agree to that, no, sir. I would question as to the amount of dirt, how we were going to regulate the amount of dirt, how it would make other things flow on the property, things of that nature.
So you don't want any dirt removed, period?
That's not necessarily the case, sir. If it was removed in the proper way, I have no problem with that. But if we're talking about 40 loads of dirt, that's hard for me to, I guess, put together.
If he completely fills the hole in, first, do you remind him removing the excess dirt?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I'm not prepared to really speak on what's been brought tonight, just from the standpoint of I haven't thought about that. I can't put that together in my mind, how that amount of dirt leaving a 5-acre plot of land would look. Not sure how he would level it out afterwards. I really don't know. It sounds good, but again, I just don't know, and I'm sorry.
I just got some follow-up stuff. I think, I don't know how the lay of the lot is, but just from everybody's already spoke before Mr. Bowman speaking, he was just saying there was, like I said, I don't know what the lay of the land is, but there was a knoll there that he was going to cut down that was going to be enough dirt to fill in the existing pit or pond that he already has, and then I guess to make his lot level and get away from that knoll, he was going to use the excess dirt left over to haul off to some other lots. Now, with that being said, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I'm just trying to make sure you understand. You said you didn't. As far as regulated, he would be regulated by a road bond. As far as the road, if it tears up the road, he has to put a bond up that covers that if the road's tore up by those trucks. But then wasn't our codes or engineering, would he be regulated on what he's got to do as far as he can't interrupt any way the water's draining, just put water on anybody else? Would you elaborate on that, Danielle?
The applicant would still be required to submit a reclamation plan to be approved by the engineer.
I don't know if that totally answers your question, but I hope that answers some of it to make you understand. It seemed like you really didn't understand what was going to happen there, so I hope that kind of helps you.
And again, I'm not trying to be against anything, but I do have a problem with the borrow pit. And with what he's recommended, I'd like to think about it. I think it sounds like a potentially good plan, but again, that amount of dirt taken away from a 5-acre lot, I just don't know.
Okay, we understand that. Jerry, do you have a question? Pardon?
I'll wait till after the public hearing.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Lester Russell. I am married to Joe Russell, and we own the 15-acre tract that is immediately to the west of the 5-acre tract in question. You'll notice there's a little U-shaped piece of property to the west. That U shape is our 15 acres, and then there's 5 acres in between that's owned by another gentleman. So Mr. Likens did allude to the fact that there will be eventually probably 3 homes total on that 20 acres at some point in time. But I just wanted to reiterate some of what my husband said, that we are not for a pond on that property in any sense. The soil is such good topsoil out there that it's almost sandy. It just won't hold water. It wouldn't be practical to try to make it into a pond because it is such good topsoil. There's hardly any rock in it or anything. I did go out there and take some photographs at a couple different points in time, and the shallow end of the hole is probably about waist to, chest deep on me, and the deepest part of the hole is taller than I am. So it's kind of like standing in the deep end of a swimming pool with no water in it. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the existing hole is like. My concerns are, number one, aesthetic. We did purchase this piece of property. We've been looking for several years for a beautiful piece of property to build a home on that had the correct slope where we can, have a basement home. We do have a lot of storms here and so on, and it would be nice to be able to build a basement home there. So we did find this piece of property, and it's such beautiful rolling land out there. We just hated to see somebody come in and have this big pit there on the property. And certainly our easement is 900 feet across this 5-acre piece of property, 15 feet wide to access our property. So we'd have to drive past that every day. Also, we have 2 small children, ages 3 and 5, and that hole, the way it is, it poses a danger. If Mr. Bowman is going to fill in that hole, I don't have a problem with. I think that's great. Filling in the hole is the really good part about this, and I don't have a problem with him removing some topsoil. In addition to that, if it doesn't affect the water flow and so on, if we can do that properly. Also, I just want enough remaining there so that grass will grow on it. I don't want to drive past a barren piece of land every time I come and go to my home when we do get it built out there. We have worked out a gentleman's agreement on this, and he has agreed that he will fix up the road and so on. Right now there are some ruts that are about 12 inches deep out there, so I certainly can't get my minivan up and down the road. And my husband has a Yukon, like a Suburban, and he has very much difficulty getting his truck up and down the property. In fact, he just had to replace a U-joint because of some damage likely caused by that road. But as long as we can access and enjoy our property and it's not an eyesore and doesn't present a danger to our children, I really don't have a problem with it. I think that the engineers can work with Mr. Bowman to get this done in the proper manner. Where the ruts are in the driveway, the access road, because they're so deep, we've had several rainstorms in the last few months since this has been going on, and it has just really channeled the rain down that driveway, and it has just eroded deeper and deeper down to the pipe that was put in by Rhodes Lane so that we can, drive from Rhodes Lane onto the property, because there's a little bit of a ditch there, and there's maybe a 12-inch pipe or something in there. You can actually see the pipe exposed from some of that runoff. Now, that runoff may have happened anyway, but I feel like as a layperson and not trained in engineering, it just seems like those channels, it's kind of like a water slide that coming right down there. So as long as the road's fixed, the hole's filled in, and grass will grow on that property, I think we can work together to resolve it.
Mr. Chairman, the problem I have with this is the gentleman is a contractor, and he should definitely know he needed a permit to dig to start with. And I have a problem with that. If Nicole was digging the pond, I could say she might not know that she shouldn't dig that without a permit. But he is a contractor, been in business probably several years, and he did all this dirt removal knowing he needed permission. So I have a lot of problems with that part of it.
Thank you. You may be seated.
I just got
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just got a few
You have
questions.
a question?
Yeah, I just want to, reiterate again. So, from what Mr. Bowman has proposed to what he's going to do and what he's going to change, and what he wants to do is fill the pond in and get rid of the excess dirt that he's going to have left over from that knoll, and with the road bond being placed in place and all that. So, with all that being said, you would be in agreement with that?
Yes,
And a time limit on it.
And the time limit, he said, about 3 months at the
yes,
max.
I would. I'd like to kind of be kept in the loop on what's going on.
Right.
But yes, I trust our county engineers and their training and expertise to approve a proper plan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to defer and let him come back with his real plan before we vote? Because we'll be voting on something that's been changed.
You can do that if you choose to delay it a month. You can come back.
Let him get his facts right.
Let's discuss this for Mitchell. Wait just a minute, please. Let's discuss this for a minute. I'm having a lot of difficulty with the work that's already going on out there, and I'm sure Mr. Bowman knew that he had to have a borough pit permit. Sometimes we get busy as contractors and we delay these kinds of things. However, if he's willing to clear the land, put it back in order, and do this within 3 months and 30 to 40 loads and get this thing out of the way, it might be the best thing. Now, here's the problem, folks. If you turn this down, and the people out here, if it's turned down by the BZA, nothing will be done. If it's in the hands of the BZA, we can manage this and see that it's done right. So those are I'm just throwing these out. These are questions that you've got to roll around in your mind of whether you want to do something about this or not. Do you leave it like it is, or do you put some restrictions on it as we have a plan submitted and make sure that it's done right and within the time limit of 3 months? So I'd like to hear some further discussions on it.
I got a question, I guess it might be for Danielle. I know his request tonight was for a borrow pit. He's kind of changed gears on that a little bit, even though he would still need our approval because he's going to be removing dirt off the property. So what would he need to do I guess for the sake of everybody's here tonight, could we approve what he said he wanted to do and prove it up under that way, and him have to present exactly what he's going to do other than the borrow pit? Or I guess I'm just kind of asking for your guidance a little bit to see what we need.
In other words, are you satisfied with what he's saying, which is different from what the proposal is?
Well, it is different. It changes the location of or adds to the location of the activity. However, a portion of it's no longer going to be considered the borough pit, but he's going to be excavating from another portion of the property. The engineering department will have to be satisfied with the plans that he submits. So regardless of, we don't require really detailed plans on the front end for the purposes of the zoning review. He will be required to demonstrate to the county engineer that he meets all the standards, that his reclamation plan will be carried out, and the property will, be in a suitable state according to what the engineer feels is suitable for that area.
Joe.
Mr. Chairman, the only way I could vote for this would be the pit be completely filled in, topsoil moved back, because if he takes a hill down, he can leave barren land. If he does not save the topsoil off that hill or mound that he's going to fill the pit in, he can go off and leave nothing but barren land. The only way that I could possibly vote for this tonight, that he filled the pit in, he saved the topsoil and spread that back over the hill area that he's removing. That's the only way I could vote for it. But otherwise, he will leave a barren hill.
Any other discussion? Michael?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I certainly agree with comments that you've made and a few comments that Mr. Krause made. And I share those concerns. Another concern I have, if it's true, is the prior use of this property. There's some question whether there's some environmental impact from the way this property was used in years past. So not only is that affecting those in that surrounding area, now we're talking about moving more dirt, but if that dirt ends up on 10 or 15 homes somewhere else in the county, and there's an environmental issue with that dirt, what have we done? So I'm of the opinion there's a lot of questions that need answers, and I think it's more than just filling in a hole and pushing down some dirt. If there's a potential environmental impact, I think that needs to be researched.
Any other, Keith?
Yeah, I guess I'm refer back to Danielle. I don't want to keep meaning putting you on the spot. Let me ask you this: before, with the proposal he's got here to do this borrow pit, did our anybody from engineering have to go look at this before he could do this?
Have gone
Okay.
out to the site.
So in other words, and I'm trying to bring up what Mr. Rather says about some environmental issues. I mean, I didn't realize, from what I understand, we could approve this the way it was already submitted. And did our county engineering already say there were some environmental issues with what he had proposed already?
I'm not familiar with the way the property's been used in the past, and I have not heard of any reference to environmental issues or fear of contamination of the soil. That's news to me. I don't know what kind of permits we could require for that, but the engineering department, we could bring it up to them and they could investigate it.
And the reason I say I bring it up is what the proposal he had, our engineering had already went out and looked at it and said, if you want to approve a borrow pit, we're good with it. But the issue just really seems to has been with the surrounding neighbors not wanting to have a borrow pit. But I mean, I'm looking at this from our county engineering standpoint. They said if we wanted to approve this, they had no problems with it, correct? Environmentally or anything.
Engineering has not indicated any issues with what's been submitted so far. However, they have not had the opportunity to review any detailed plans, which typically comes after the zoning approval.
Okay, whether we say okay, yay or nay.
Correct.
And then at a later time, if we approve what he's wanting to do, what he's wanting to change to, if we even approve that, it's still, our engineering is going to have to make sure that it's done in a way that it's not anything environmentally out there. The drainage of water, he's not going to be putting water on other residents or other people's property, correct?
Engineers will regulate the pit to make sure that it remains in compliance with all of the conditions that are established in the permit that we discussed in the staff report. The only two conditions that the applicant was seeking relief from was the percentage of the property that was affected by the activity, which that's probably going to increase now, and the setbacks.
And again, I'm just making these comments. I know Mr. Bowman's going. He's trying to. He's trying to do something with his property, and most time I support most people's property rights. But at the same time, I want to make sure that if I vote one way or the other for this, at the same time I want to make sure that everybody else out there is satisfied with it, and it's not going to impact them in any way that more than normal. But I'm just trying to get to some kind of middle of the road where it's going to help everybody. Thank you.
One thing you might want to consider on this is the plan is somewhat different from what has been proposed tonight, and to delay this until next month and let them come back with a specific plan. That's another option that you have.
One other question, and you may or may not know the answer. Versus the way he wants to do it now as far as filling in the pond and just removing about 40 loads of dirt. Before that, he was wanting to continue digging and dig a bigger pond. That being said, how much more impact was that going to probably have on everybody? I mean, he's saying 40 loads. If we approved it the way he originally wanted to do it, we don't know how many loads of dirt he would remove off that piece of property, correct? Right. Thank you.
They've already experienced the impact from the activity that's already taken place on the property.
Right. All right, thank you.
I got a question for Danielle. I have not seen this property. Is there a mound large enough that he can fill the hole back in?
I have elevations, nor am I qualified
Could
to
you
answer
call
that.
the first gentleman back up again?
Pardon?
I asked, Mr. Chairman, could he ask the first gentleman to come back, Joe?
We could, but I'm not going to unless all of you want it. I think this is going to have to be either up or down vote, okay? We can discuss this all night, but the only way you can really tell is for our engineers to take a look at it and give us some kind of
Because
indication.
he could go out there and remove load after load, without knowing what the mound looks like.
Yeah, you can go out there and look at it, but that still won't tell you a lot. Any other comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on it.
Well, with everything being considered, Mr. Chairman, after hearing Mr. Bowman's comments, and really everybody's out there, with him wanting to, change what he's going to do and fill in the pond and just remove the 30 or 40 loads, and he's going to do it within a 90-day period he's proposed. I'll make a motion to be approved.
Okay, have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
With all those conditions.
Motion dies with lack of a second. We have another motion.
Make a motion that we defer it for 1 month to get the true representation of what's been applied for. And
Clarify any questions. And
clarify any questions the neighbors
okay,
have.
we have a motion to be delayed for a month. And
I'll second it.
Have a second to it. Any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machota,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Thane Cantrell.
Yes, it
Motion
is delayed.
carries.
The next item of business we have is a request by Middle Tennessee Solar Farm. And what do you have on that, please?
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to ask, would our county engineer try to be here next month so we can get answers to some of these questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
I've already,
Will you take care of that?
yes, I will.
Okay. I'm sure he'll go out and take a look at all this and meet with Mr. Bowman. Okay.
Application BZA 2013-52 is a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a solar farm providing essential services with variance relief to the development standard requiring paved vehicular areas and from the development standard requiring a fire hydrant to be located within 1,000 feet for property located in the residential low density zone. The applicant, Middle Tennessee Solar Farms, is applying for the special exception for this 175-acre site located at 6246 West Trimble Road. And what they're wanting to establish is a solar farm on 8 acres of the 175-acre tract. Their plan will consist of 4,100 solar panels and the related equipment. And the solar farm is anticipated to be located in this northeast corner of the property. According to the applicant, it would not be visible from surrounding properties or from the road. They will be supplying electricity to Middle Tennessee Electric, selling that which Middle Tennessee Electric customers will be purchasing the utilities from the energy that is harnessed at the site. The applicant is also seeking relief from the paved parking areas and vehicular drive areas. This type of use does not generate hardly any traffic, maybe one trip a month. And they will have to go through site plan review because it's non-residential development on a piece of property. So they are seeking relief from that requirement. And they are also seeking relief from the fire hydrant requirement. The nearest fire hydrant is 3,000 feet from the property. And we were notified by Consolidated Utility District that the water line that is installed along West Trumbull Road cannot handle the installation or accommodate the installation of a fire hydrant. However, this use will not likely pose any hazards or create any kind of fire concerns. The staff considered the application with the criteria for special exception as well as specific standards for community facility activities, and we found that the proposed use meets these requirements. This is the surrounding area. It's large acreage tracts with farms established on it. We received 2 phone calls, informational calls, as well as 1 call in opposition of the request. And the sign was posted on the property. There is a farmhouse on the property. There's a sign. And the applicant is here to explain his use and what he is requesting and can answer any questions related to the facility itself. This is a site plan or plan showing the general location of the solar farm in relation to the entire property boundary. This is a layout of all of the solar panels that will be installed in the aerial view. And that concludes our presentation.
As far as I remember, this will be the first solar farm.
This will be the
first request for a solar farm.
Yes.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please.
My name is Harold Danks.
Microphone first, please. Thank you.
My name is Harold Danks, and I am here to represent Middle Tennessee Solar Farms, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Ms. Glauner and her presentation of the request is, I think, spot on. We really don't have a lot to add to that, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Do you have any examples of solar farms that have?
I do. We have a farm that we built near Tracy City in Grundy County, and actually have some pictures I'd be glad to share with you of that. It is a little smaller than this is. It's 200 kilowatts.
Now, give us just a brief sketch of what's the purpose of this. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. We are building this under a contract with TVA. As you're probably aware, all electricity sales and production, generation in this area is done by TVA. And so we are completely under their discretion. We do it through Middle Tennessee EMC, who owns the distribution lines throughout this area, and we interconnect with them. Middle Tennessee's primary role in this is really to ensure the efficacy and the safety of this system in relation to the rest of the electrical grid in this area. So we generate electricity from the solar cells, these panels, and sell it to TVA, and that's kind of it, I think.
Joe?
I just have one question. I'd like to see this all through the United States because I think we could get independent from the Middle East, maybe. Hope so. But how do you tie back into the Middle Tennessee Electric?
The way we do, and specifically on this site, there's actually 2 houses on this property. One is almost immediately in the center top border, northern border on that picture. And our facility will be in the field just there to the east of it. Currently, there are lines that go to that house from Middle Tennessee EMC, and we literally connect our electrical lines right there where those lines end. So it's just an extension of those electrical lines. And just to give you an idea, what really happens here is when we're generating electricity, of course we generate more on sunny days than on cloudy days. When it's generating, that electricity essentially goes to the nearest user in the area. And on average, throughout the year, this electricity will provide, or these solar panels will provide electricity to about 100 to 120 homes usage in that area. Now, at any given point, it may be supplying power to many more of those. But just on average, throughout the year, that's essentially what's going on.
Do you have a bank of transformers on this site?
There will be transformers, and really just one transformer. And as I recall with Middle Tennessee, it will be pad mounted right next to our facility. In fact, it will be right outside of the security fence that surrounds the panels. And it won't be much different than what you would see in a residential neighborhood.
Keith?
I just got a question. The one that we're looking, the picture I'm looking at here, how many panels are on this one?
That one has 800.
800.
Yeah,
But the one,
832, right.
the one you're proposing, though, is going to have 4,100, correct?
Yes. And so, roughly speaking, it's 5 times as big and as many. Now, that site there uses about 2.5 acres.
Right.
But because of the setbacks that we have and what have you, it doesn't take up as much space as that might indicate.
Okay. And out here, and I'm with this area. I'm familiar with this area. The proposed panels that you're going to have, are they going to be in the center of this, or is there going to be any type of barrier as far as if, in other words, if I drove down the road, would I be able to look and see them?
You will not be able to see them.
Okay.
It's kind of a unique site in that regard.
Yes, sir.
First of all, there's trees surrounding that field that are very large, very tall, and fence lines that are overgrown like you would typically see.
Yes, sir.
But more than that, it's probably, and this is just it's probably 1,000 feet from the road, from West Trimble Road.
Okay.
And that is terrain that, just would prevent you from seeing it almost regardless.
Okay. Let's see one other question. Oh, yeah. Now, on this site I'm looking at right here, the fencing that you would have around the panels, around your area, the 8-acre site would be like a tall chain link fence with barbed wire on top?
Exactly. 6-foot fence with barbed wire on top.
That's mainly to keep deer and everything else.
It's to keep animals out of
Right.
it. It's to keep, someone from just sort of, a hunter or something, just sort of wandering up to them.
Right.
On the one hand, they're safe. If you were to go up and touch it, you're fine. There's nothing like that.
Right.
On the other hand, if you were to go up there and tinker with it, it could be very dangerous.
Right.
It's a high voltage system. So we do have the security fence for sort of everybody involved.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Jerry?
Yes, sir. You talked in our pre-meeting about there would be no pads poured and such. What holds them to the ground when the windstorm comes?
Yeah, that's a good question. We use screws. We use foundation screws that will, I want to say they're 6-inch round, and they screw into the ground about 5 or 6 feet. We don't pour foundations. We do have electrical conduit that is buried, and then there will be 2 small pads laid for the inverters, which convert the electricity. But generally, very, very little.
So they withstand wind up to how far?
They're rated at 90 plus, and that's sort of an industry standard for this part of the country, really.
Thank you.
One more question. Sir, if this was approved and you did this, as far as, timeline of installing all this, and what kind of time period?
Yeah. Well, the way our contracts work with TVA is we have up to about 21 months from today to get it turned on and working. Now, the actual construction timeline is less than 90 days. But these are new. It's difficult to finance them, and it'll take some effort and time. We hope we're way on that curve, but we really don't know. Yeah.
But as far as construction, 90 days, but I know it's going to take some time to work out the kinks and get it online and all that. All right, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request.
My name is Valerie Day. My husband and Jeff Day and I live at 6456 West Trimble. We border the property at the northwest at the road, so we abut there at just the first section. That's correct. We do. I did want to clarify the section of the area that would be fenced with the chain link, with barbed wire. That's not something, that we want to see, from our area. And with regard to the road improvements, we're interested in exactly what that would look like. There's not really much more than a very small gravel driveway there. So we're interested in what that would look like, because during construction, there will be a lot of trucks in and out of there. There is a creek that runs through that property, so, we're concerned about environmental issues there. And of course, like any of the neighbors, concerned about any effects that this might have detrimentally on our property value. So.
Any questions?
Well, again, Ms. Day, I just want to. So what is the main concern you have with this?
That any negative impacts on property values to any of the neighbors. I know that they've stated that there won't be any visibility from any of the neighbors. Of course, since there are hills in that area, there may be people that don't abut the property, but it may affect the view from their property. And then primarily the fencing, that the fence row that's there along that property would not be replaced by a tall chain link fence with barbed wire on it. Which that's not my understanding, but we do just want to have that clarified, and exactly what the situation is going to be at the road. What's that going to look like? Is what kind of gates are going to be there? What kind of road is going to be there? And we do have concerns about. We are talking about high voltage. We do think that there could be an issue for fire, things there. And, is our rural volunteer fire department, are they equipped to handle that? Will there be some interface between them and TVA and MTMC to address, any issues that might bring forward for them? So safety and aesthetics and, environmental concerns are what we're.
Any other questions?
So I guess a fair question to ask you. I think they kind of addressed most of that. So would you be against? Are you for it, or are you supporting it, or not supporting it?
I don't think I have enough information yet to make that decision.
Okay. All right, ma'am. Thank you.
And I think they call this a solar farm, but it's not a farm, or we would not be here. It's a power plant.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Turn your mic on.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved. We have a second. Any other discussion? Call a roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
I might suggest that you kind of talk with the folks over here that have the solar farm to answer some of your questions, and I think you'll be pleased with that. I don't think they want to be a bad neighbor at all. So before you leave, try to get together and discuss some of those and share telephone numbers, and that'll probably save a lot of time and worry. Because I know these things, especially something that's brand new, it's never been done before, is scary. That's not what you moved out there to see. But I think this is probably going to be a wave of the future of having alternate power sources other than what TVA is providing. So give that some thought. Thank you, though. We appreciate your comments and your concerns. The next item we have is a request by Chuck Mullins. What do you have on that, please? I believe this is a single wide or a double wide.
Yes, it's a single wide.
Okay.
Thank you. Application BZA 2013-53 is a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a single wide mobile home on a lot measuring less than 5 acres in the RM medium density zone, medium density residential zone. The site is located at 2470 Mount Herman Road. It's a vacant property. It's 1.22 acres in size, and the applicant simply wants to install a single wide on the property to reside in, or his daughter reside in. The site is only approved for a 2-bedroom residence, and because of the limited septic soil area, a single wide was the obvious option for a residential unit for the applicant. The site surrounding area has a blend of site-built homes as well as mobile homes, and there is a church located at the end of the road at Mount Herman in Bradyville. We have received an informational call as well as a call in opposition of the request. We find that based on the surrounding area and the constraints that the site exhibits regarding septic soils, that the proposed request meets the criteria for special exception. I'm just showing you photos of the surrounding area. We posted the sign. Have technical issues tonight. I know. And this is the general plan that was submitted by the applicant. They plan to install the mobile home, which was in accordance with the setbacks that we have established for single wides. They'll be required to meet certain skirting standards, as you can read in the staff report. That concludes our staff presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request?
My name is Chuck Mullins, and I'm the applicant that put in this application for a single wide.
Do you have any other information you want to share on it?
Well, the soil side is just big enough for a 2-bedroom, so.
Will you be living there?
No, my daughter.
Your daughter will be living there, okay.
In relation to this project, where do you live? I live on Bradyville Pike, about
on Bradyville Pike.
4 miles down the road.
If your daughter moved, would it be a rental trailer or what?
Sir, I didn't hear.
If your daughter happened to move out, would it be a rental trailer then or what?
Well, I hadn't thought about that, but.
Does your daughter own the trailer or you own it?
There's no trailer there yet.
I mean the one that's coming on.
I would be helping her get it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on it?
I move to approve it.
Say that again.
I move to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to be approved. We have a second. Any other discussion? Call a roll, please.
Steve Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Okay, it is approved. Do you have anything else?
No, just remember the training on the 25th, 8:30 to 12:30 in the planning and engineering offices.
Thank you. We are adjourned.